Hey guys, how are you tonight? I'm doing my first in studio session here, and one of the things that has really been on my mind um, that I just can't wrap my head around is this new API guidelines for men and boys. I know that a lot of people are talking about it out there, but I actually took the time to read it, and it's not too bad of a read, guys. I mean, if you have a chance, I mean, if you're into the sort of the red pill community and whatnot, you might look it over. It's about 20 pages of reading, but it's not. Man, you just want to see what's being introduced into the professional vernacular for psychology. Man, what a wake up call! I didn't realize where we were at. Okay, so the main thing is I want to talk about what are the implications. So you see here on my screen, I've kind of got magnified here is kind of some of the definitions that they're sort of inserting into the modern profession of psychology. Okay, and this all comes from gender studies. Okay, gender studies. And just aside here, guys, the when I was going to look at the APA guidelines for men and boys, and I was thinking about what are these words, gender being a social construct. Because it just seems like this is something that sort of popped up into my head in the last few years, and that's uh, words like cisgender. We're talking about people, transsexuals, and how they want to be addressed. All these things that were part of gender studies. Uh, I didn't realize what the origin was, and so I kind of did a little bit of research, kind of cruising through YouTube and reading through Wikipedia and whatnot, and we came across this guy here named John Money. Okay, and John Money was a psychologist here. You take a look. He was a psychologist, sexologist, and author specializing in research into sexual identity. Okay, this was back. This guy's born in 1921. This was back in the late 40s, early 50s. This guy wrote a series of articles and books, and he was the first person that introduced terms like gender as a social construct. Okay, and I mean that beyond the genetic determination of sex. Okay, we used to use the word sex to be synonymous with gender. Okay, but this was the first guy, John William Money, who through his experiments and his theories proposed that gender would take on new meaning to being just synonymous with sex. Okay, now your sex, XX, XY chromosome, which produces genitalia and production of different hormones in the body. The sex of an individual basically induces genetically what we sort of classically call sexual dimorphism. Okay, that's how we get our different traits, male and female. That is undeniable. Okay, the argument that seems to be in the national dialogue, at least within the feminist communities and college indoctrination, whatnot, is that gender is not just your sex. Okay, it's a social construct, and this was the first guy. Now, John Money, I believe he did an experiment, the twin study, where he took two twin boys, basically had castrated one of them and decided he was going to socialize one of those boys as a girl. Now, he did some weird stuff. I'll let you guys do the research. I don't want to digress too long on John Money, but basically, long story short, is the experiments didn't produce any real science, because actually the boy that he socialized as a girl ended up wanting his male identity back. Okay, there's even documentary footage about the boy. So anyway, so in all reality, a lot of these terms that are being introduced into the APA guidelines for how people should practice is not based on any hard science. Okay, we talk about gender bias, gender role strain. Gender role strain is a psychological situation in which a gender role demands have negative consequences on the individual or others. The negative effects of gender role strain are mental and physical health problems. So what they're talking about is guy they think that guys are stressed out and going to psychologists because they can't live up to what this next passage up here, masculinity ideology. Okay, these are these are masculinity ideology is basically the way we've always socialized boys: be strong, be a leader, be decisive, pursue excellence, burden of performance. Okay, now this is something that they're considering toxic. Okay. So basically, I wanted to ask myself this question: what kind of outcomes will the APA guidelines produce for men and boys? Here's my take: it will further indoctrinate men into believing it's okay to walk away from traditional gender roles, as prescribed right here in masculinity ideology. Okay. Men are basically being taught that traditional masculinity is toxic, and that it's okay to walk away from the burden of performance as a man. Okay, men who decided that they can't live up to traditional masculinity ideology are what they would describe as being in a gender role conflict. Okay, look it up, guys. But here's the thing, guys. This is causing boys and men to atrophy physically and mentally. It's changed the whole landscape of what men are becoming nowadays. Because of man's evolutionarily innate psychology, it leaves that man a state of cognitive dissonance. Boys are now being socialized in a way that serves the gender study narratives and prescriptions. But he grows up to find that the world does not match the narrative and the rewards are not waiting for him. Even though he has abandoned what the psychological and feminist community likes to call toxic masculinity, now that he has abandoned his traditional masculine ideology, the man is finding out that women are not attracted to the way he has been socialized. Okay? It's the 80-20 rule. Okay? Stats are starting to show that 80% of women only find the top 20% of men attractive. Okay? If you don't believe me, just download a Tinder app, okay? Start swiping, guys, if you don't believe me. It's a shit show, okay? And even the Tinder stats are showing that women find only 20% of men attractive, okay? But on the other side of the coin, and this is what I was thinking about, I was trying to think it from the standpoint of women. Women are taking on what used to be traditionally masculine roles, but women are not evolutionarily wired for those roles either. See, it's causing a lot of discord among families, and it's rooted in feminism and all this gender philosophy, okay? Now, I'm a red pill guy, but I'm going to take a different attack on this, okay? I'm willing to accept terms such as gender fluidity, as long as we can agree we are losing as a society by not correctly socializing boys and girls, okay? Men are doing less and are wasting away as a result. Women are doing more and are stressed out, peeled out as a result. Now, the stats going to show that 25% of all women by the age of 40 are on some sort of psych med, okay? It's causing birth rates to fall as men and women increasingly walk away from marriage. They're walking away from marriage, right? Because men, even though they're socialized to be more feminine because of the way we're socialized by our teachers, by the pop culture, by gender philosophy. I mean, most of the girls are getting the college degrees and they're being indoctrinated in gender studies, getting useless degrees that aren't based on real science, okay? Basically, guys are walking away from marriage and they don't even know why. Because they're basically saying, I refuse the burden of performance because I wasn't socialized into traditional masculinity. Why should I have the burden of performance? Okay, and thus the saying, why can't I find a good man? Right? It's because men do not want that burden of performance. And I was really thinking about this because I thought, MGTOW was kind of born out of that. Okay, MGTOW originally were a group of guys that said, look, I don't subscribe to this burden of performance. as a man. I was taught that in egalitarian equalism, and marriage is not treating me like I'm equal to a woman. Okay? So guys are sort of walking away from it. So in a way, your original MGTOW guys did sort of prescribe to egalitarian equalism, and they were just saying it's a bad deal altogether. Now, the difference, in my opinion, between the MGTOW and the red pill is that the red pill guys still believe that the man should be socialized into traditional masculine ideology. The man should still be raised to understand that he has the burden of performance and to understand the nature of women, which is great. I'd rather be on the red pill side. However, feminism becomes the problem for both groups, okay? Because red pill doesn't work with feminism. Feminism is at conflict with red pill ideology. And MGTOW is in conflict because MGTOW doesn't solve the problem of birth rates, okay? I mean, you can walk away from women, but if you're not having kids, you're not perpetuating your culture, okay? So, if we were truly living in an egalitarian society, then marriage as it currently is constructed does not benefit the man, therefore becomes obsolete. So, the problem I have with the APA guidelines, just to sum up, is that it is basically infusing gender studies into the modern psychological vernacular. Okay, and it basically now I'll even show you here on the article at the overview here. Look at this bottom. Okay, this is the overview from the article about the APA guidelines, and it said, look at line 1 here. It says, discuss the research that suggests that aspects of traditional masculinity can be psychologically harmful. So, if a guy's sitting in a room with a shrink, he's stressed out because of his burden of performance, or he's having issues, they basically want the psychologist to tell that man that he's too masculine, and that's why he's stressed out, or that's why he's having an issue. I don't think that's why men are upset. I think men are upset because they're not allowed to be masculine. Now, that's something to think about. Okay, guys? It's just my 2 cents for today. I'll leave it at that. Okay? You guys have a good night. We'll see you next time, okay?